Hello everyone, this is LW Gaming and welcome to the brand new installment of Future Langrisser series. And this time around, we're going to be covering a global version of the Langrisser's update, which will be coming out very soon in a few days. So anyways, as usual, this is the in-depth view of what those two characters are. So we got Patricia and Gunn coming up. So anyways, let's take a look at what they are and see what kind of skills they have in store for us. So, anyways, we got new hero Patricia. Her classes is very interesting because this is nothing new actually. Like both her class routes are mages. So yeah, no matter which path you upgrade her to, it will always be mages, which is interesting. Not gonna lie. And then for factions, she's part of Empire's Honor, Princess Alliance, and Mythical Realm. And her talent, Ever Burning Red Flame. Keep in mind the names that I show on the future Langrisser are probably subject to change. So it is not finalized as this is roughly from Chinese translation. So if there's some inaccuracy, don't worry. The Lang Wiki will get the latest names and how it is said in the actual game. So you don't have to worry about that point. So all I am doing is just trying to cover what those talents and skills does. So yep, just ignore the names for now. But I'm just gonna say it because that's how it is said in CN. So it's the higher the unit's HP, the higher the damage dealt, up to 15%, 20%, 25%, 30%, depending on start level. After an active attack deals damage, Soul Burning Plague will be applied to the enemy 3 times, with a chance of each target of like 40 to 70%. Once again, depending on star level. And then what that spell Burning Plague does is that at the end of the duration, you will receive fixed damage equal to 0.7 times of Patricia's int. When the debuff is effect when the debuff effect is dispelled, Soul Burn Plague will be dispelled first. Can be stacked up to 5 times. Last 2 turns. So yeah, you could already tell that the dispelling part on this new debuff is actually pretty interesting because I don't really think any debuff that does that like prioritize them first. Something like that. So I think Patricia is the first one to like prioritize with the debuff prioritization if you're trying to spell them by healers, of course. So yeah, if you're gonna try to dispel those debuffs, you're gonna debuff those first before you get to the other debuffs. Patricia is literally opening up some gates here. Like basically, there's gonna be like a prioritized debuffs now. So when you're debuffing, those special debuffs from her will be first. So that is interesting to see. The thing is, they're not really meta. Like their only purpose here is to unlock bonds, of course, for the future characters. Like as far as I know, they like Patricia unlocks the bond for Tyrantel, which will be coming up soon. Well, already in CN, but soon in global after a few more months. And then Patricia's skills. Surprisingly, there are 3 skills, but her awakening skill has 2 phases. Like some heroes have, like Apotheosis, for example. Her one-cost skill is Dragon Blood Revival, and it's a 3-turn cooldown, and it's a self-cast, and it's a single target, of course. After attacking and receiving damage, if the if the if the unit's HP is below 30% and the skill is not in cooldown, the skill's active effect will trigger and the skill will go into cooldown mode. So yeah, that's pretty confusing to say when it comes to like what kind of passive this one has. So as long as as long as Patricia is below 30% and the skill is not in cooldown, the active effect will trigger, which is interesting. And then later on it'll become cooldown skill. So yeah, that's a bit strange though. And Dragon Blood Rebel is an assist skill, by the way. Removes 2 debuffs and regain HP equal to 5 times of Patricia's int. At the same time, the cooldown of all skills is reduced by 2 turns. So there's that. If you really need it to get in the pitch of like like try to get your cooldown reduced as fast as possible, Patricia is your girl to use. Like she can actually get rid of 2 CDs on your skill, which is pretty nice. And then there's the 2 cost skill, Sky Tornado. This is a unique skill. So don't think about this like a tornado spell that most mages use, because this is not like the same ones. This is different. This is a single target instead. So attacks a single enemy, dealing 1.6 times damage. For each debuff the target has, the damage dealt will be increased by 10%, up to the maximum 30%. When carrying ranged soldiers, those soldiers will also attack. And after combat, it will inflict a random strong debuff to the enemy. So basically, this one you deal more damage as long as your opponent has have at least a debuff. But if it has 3, you get the maximum 30% damage that will increase. So yeah, pretty dangerous if you could think about it. And then finally, the 3C. This one has 2 phases. The first one comes with is Crown Flame Protection, and is a assist skill actively used to increase the mobility of by 1 of friendly troops in range, or friendly allies I mean, lasts 2 turns and applies Crown Flame Protection. Immunity to mobility reduction. Apply 1 layer of Soul Burn Plague to the enemy before entering combat. Upon a hero's death, Patricia will deal 0.1 times AoE magic damage to the attacker, which can't be dispelled and lasts 4 turns. Once this skill is used, this skill becomes Royal Order of the Red Crown, Red Crown, which lasts for 3 turns. So yeah, as you can see, this assist is actually pretty good. But however, there's some things we need to keep in mind. So this essentially enables like her deck mechanic. So kind of similar to a Boro, for example. So when she dies, she'll deal a 1 block AoE to the attacker. So this is something that Oboro does. So this is nothing new. But the thing is, this is very different because unlike Oboro, this one does not damage increase depending on the stacks, because Patricia is not a dragon, but a descendant of someone. So anyways, the fixed damage, you do not have to worry about dying to it, because it's not going to do much unless Patricia is well built. And yeah, anyways, she's not as dangerous as Oboro's death damage, so just be mindful about that. And then let's talk about her other part of the 3C, Royal Order of the Red Crown, which is a 3-turn cooldown and is a self-cast and is a 4-block AoE. When using skills, and by the way, this is passive. When using skills, enemies with at least 3 stacks of Soul Burning Plague and allies with the Crown Flame Defense or Crown Flame Protection, will be considered to be within the range of their own skills within 2 blocks. And when attacking in range, soldiers will also attack too. And this does magic damage, of course, on the attack part. Deals 0.4 times damage on the AoE damage to all enemies within 4 blocks around herself, and applies 2 random debuffs to all enemies hit. At the end of action, restores allies HP equal to 3 times of the caster's int. This skill becomes Crown Flame Protection after use. So this basically switches back to the first phase of the 3C. So yeah, this is pretty strong, don't you think? But not as broken as other heroes we've seen so far. So yeah, she has a good place here. Moving on, let's talk about Goon. Goon is the other new hero that's coming out in the same update as Patricia. Anyways, his classes, Infantry and Demon. And then the tractions choices he has is that he has Strategic Masters, Meteor Strike, and Ulez Legends. So, anyways, his talent is an interesting one. Like damage dealt increased by a certain percentage depending on star level, and restores HP after combat by a certain amount of the damage dealt. And then this is the part that things gets interesting, because I don't think any other character that does this before. So anyways, he starts with Luna Wolf Power, which will increase his mobility by 2, and he will not die when receiving fatal damage. And instead, he gets 20% of HP recovered instead of dying. Removes this effect and receives the revenge of the lone wolf. When actively attacking and entering combat, this hero will attack twice. Like literally. The hero will not be counterattack, and damage taken from reflection is reduced by 100%. So if you try to reflect damage against him, then that's not going to work for him. That's not going to work against him, I mean. So yeah, you can imagine that he's pretty busted when he's angry. Like the only way he can trigger his anger is by, of course, take out his revive. But you're gonna have to deal with his wrath, though. And also, while he is in this state, he cannot be healed by other friendly forces, which makes sense because imagine if you could heal while he's angry. Like you can imagine gets pretty busted, don't you think? But there's more to it. So if the unit's HP is at least 80% or more, this effect will be removed and Lunar Wolf power will be regained. So that means he can get multiple revives on the same map. Like what the heck? Like this is terrifying. Like this is the next level of terrifying, like apart from Z2. Like Z2 can do multi revives, but this one is the next level, like literally. Well, of course, they're going to need to balance it out by doing something like each time the effect of Lone Wolf Revenge is removed, the self-healing effect will be reduced by 30%. Can be accumulated, so yeah, the more he gets revived, the less healing effect he'll get. So that means it will be easier for you to kill him. And also the above effects cannot be immune or and it cannot be dispelled either. So if you try to dispel any of that or try to make it immunized, it won't work because he will just get it anyways. And then let's talk about the skills he has. So surprisingly, unlike Patricia, he has 4 unique skills. So yeah, this is gonna be interesting though. So anyways, he has Fearless, which is a 1-cost skill. If you have Luna Wolf power, all traversable terrain will be considered as plains when moving. If Lone Wolf's Revenge is available, or when he's active, of course, unit will ignore the class disadvantage. So yeah, not even the class advantage will save you. So anyways, this is a passive, by the way. This is not an active skill, just passive. And then the 2C skill, Wolf Shadow Attack, which is a 3-turn cooldown, 4 blocks, and single target. Teleports to any empty block, from 1 block from the enemy in the straight line, and deals 1.5 times damage to the target. If there are no other enemies within 1 block of the target, inflict stun to the target for 1 turn before combat. So yeah, as long as they have no other allies next to the target that you just attacked, you can inflict stun before battling. So that's actually pretty dangerous. And then his other 2C skill, which is a different one, of course, not the same one, Shock Charge. It is a 3-turn cooldown, 3 blocks attack range, and a 2 blocks AoE. And this one teleports to the cast point of the skill, and then deals 0.36 times AoE damage to all enemies within 2 blocks around itself, and disables armor effect. And this does not include HP bonus effects to all enemies hit for 2 turns. If the target is not a player unit, this effect is replaced with defense minus 25%. Each time this skill hits an enemy, it restores 20% HP, and which is up to 60%, of course. So yeah, so anyways, depending on how many enemies you hit with this, it'll heal by a lot. Like it restores 20% HP each for each enemy hit. So yeah, if you have at least 3 enemies hit with the same skill, that's basically a full healing of 60%. So that's actually quite a lot. And finally, we have 3C skill, which is the Rupture and Furious Howl. And keep in mind, once again, like I mentioned before, the names on those skills and talents are probably subject to change because this is the CN translated words, by the way. Anyways, his 3C is a 4-turn cooldown, 1 block attack, and is a single target. And the passive part of this is that when entering combat with a normal attack, the cooldown of all skills will be reduced by 1 turn after combat. So as long as you're not using any skills, you are going to get the cooldown reduced by 1 turn, which is nice. And then the active part of this is that it attacks a single enemy, dealing 1.8 times damage and dispels 5 buffs from the target before combat. After combat, deals fixed damage equal to 25% of goon's lost HP, and receives command for all enemy within 2 blocks around. The lower the unit's HP, the more mobility will be reduced. Maximum reduction will be 3. Also, enemies can't use guard when they have mobility down effects for 2 turns. So yeah, you can essentially think of this 3C like a both a single target attack as well as an aura afterwards, which will hinderize the opponent's mobility. So they won't move as far if they're near Goon. So yeah. Anyways, Goon is a solid unit despite the being on the probably on the weaker side when it comes to like the second and third phase, like after he got revived multiple times, you know. Other than that, both units are pretty good in their own ways. That's what I'm trying to say. Alright, enough with the new heroes introduction. Let's talk about the stuff that we need to know about when it comes to banners. So anyways, first week, of course, is the new heroes banner. Starting on the 28th of March, all the way to the April 24th. And then on week 2, we have Oboro and Roland on the Veda banner, along with the Wish banner, Langrisser 1, 2, and 3 heroes. Starting on the 4th of April, all the way to the 4th, all the way to the 17th of April. And then on week 3, we have Tatalia, Girl in the Shell, and Zerda on a new Destiny banner. I believe this is I think this is a myth. Could be mythical, but no, I might be wrong here. So, it might be dark banner actually. Come to think of it, this one is actually a nice pickup banner. And also on this week, there's also the Wish banner for Langrisser 4 and 5, which is the usual. But there's more. There's the Divine Oathsome summon for any hero up until Elise and Tormilk. And there's also Equipment Wish banner. So if you're missing certain gear or any heroes that you have missed in the past, that banner is excellent for you to pick up. And this will begin on the 11th of April all the way to the 24th of April. And finally, on week 4, we have 2 Destiny banners. First one is the Florentia, Helena, and Betty banner. I think this is a new, or maybe not new, but I don't recall seeing that before. But anyways, could be something that we had before. And a classic returning of Ledin, Rachel, and Alta Muller, beginning on the 18th of April all the way to the 1st of May. So yeah, if you're missing any of these characters in the past, this major update cycle is excellent for you to get them. That of course, if you think about like getting collab units, so no, you don't get collab units from the Divine Oathsome summon, by the way. And this does not include Watham, Apotheosis, AO, anybody that's released like time to time within like 6 months. Those ones are not included either. So don't think about summoning for those guys because they're not part of the summoning pool. Moving on, let's take a look at what events and changes to expect. So surprisingly, there's only one thing I would like to say here. So yeah, Endless Voyage is coming back on this update, but there won't be much of a quality of life changes here. So there's nothing to say here. Anyways, we're just gonna move on from now because there's really not much, just one information. Anyways, new confession and exclusives. So we got 2 new exclusives and 1 new confession. So let's take a look what are the new exclusives. So first off, we got Grinchio. Grinchio is getting one finally. Well, I've been thinking to myself, when are we going to get her exclusive? But my answer, I've been answered by this. So yep, we're getting it in the next update. So yeah, Grinchio's headwear is interesting. HP plus 10%. When fighting an enemy with less mobility than your own, the enemy can't attack first before using a skill to attack an enemy. If the enemy has a mobility down effect, units cooldown -4 after combat. This can be triggered again after 2 turns. So yeah, you can already tell her exclusive is pretty busted, don't you think? in some ways. Like if you're fighting against someone that has like a first strike or whatever, like Gintoki or Andrio, for example, yeah, she will definitely ignore them as long as their mobility is not higher than hers. But Andrio is a bit of a mix because he's cavalry, so if you can find a way to reduce his mobility, then you can pretty much attack him without repercussions. But Gintoki for sure you can actually try to like make him not be able to first strike. But this only if that Gintoki did not proc the breeze. Which is pretty situational because if Gintoki did not get breeze, then you have a good chance of like doing some work against him. And I don't know how the Shiro state works on Gintoki, but I think it does increase mobility, but I don't think as much. So yeah, if you could actually try to reduce the mobility as much as possible, then you can pretty much take out Gintoki with Renshio. Like no joke, literally no joke. Next up we got Elise. Elise is getting a exclusive this time around, so attack plus 8%. And by the way, this is the weapon, because it shows attack, right? But all weapons do usually do attacks or ends depending on the user. If there's an ally's key of protection within 3 blocks around Elise damage dealt plus 20%. After attacking and entering combat, if the enemy is on the ally key of the protection, inflict stun to that enemy for 1 turn before combat. So yeah, as you can see here, as long as your opponent is on the key, they will get stunned before battling them. So that's actually quite nice. And also Elise will actually increase damage. So by the way, Elise is actually a she, so don't get confused by the gender. I just say he by accident because most people just call the enemies like a he, but no, not really. It could be a female enemy, of course. But other than that, we're moving on. Confessions. A new confession goes to Prezia. So yeah, we're pretty close to the point where almost all female heroes have confession, but as of now, they're gonna try to get more out there. So we'll see how the game takes us here. And you might hear something in the background. That's just a garbage truck going by. Okay, next up, let's talk about the casting pattern skills. So this time around, it's a bit of a mediocre, but there's actually at least one that probably stand out the most, which I'll talk about last because Anyways, first up we got Sonya. All stats plus 5%. Gain 1 stack of Demon Blood from Hero's Talent. The debuff effect from Chaos Helix skill will last 1 more turn of duration. So this is okay, but the thing is, who uses Sonya nowadays? Although, even though Sonya is probably an SR character, she's not a bad unit actually. I did use her quite some time in the other account I have, which is like Lair of Inferno, by the way, which I will talk about once again later because I don't think now is the right time because that account has not reached level 70 yet. So I also think it would be fair to like analyze what that account is for. So anyways, moving on, we got Vincent. Skill damage plus 10%. When the death effect Wings of Destruction is triggered, all enemies hit by Wings of Destruction will be afflicted with damage taken plus 15% for 1 turn. So when they're hit like this, they're gonna suffer more damage. So that's actually pretty nasty for Vincent. So yeah, Vincent is actually an interesting unit. Like I believe he's most used in the auto chess because of how good he is. Like because first of all he flies, and secondly he can grapple himself towards the target and then do some AoE madness to the enemy's team. So yeah, that he basically does free damage to the enemy towers. Yeah, you can imagine him being out there like that. So yeah, having this as a casting makes him even more of a threat in auto chess, by the way. Next up, we got Jugler. HP plus 5%. At the end of action, if all active skills are on cooldown, the talent's recovery effect will be triggered, and the cooldown of all skills are reduced by 1 turn. So you're not gonna get confused, like what does this actually do? So yeah, at the end of action, if all your skills are on cooldown, Juggler will activate that recovery effect that you normally would get if you were hit by an AoE or any attack actually that's directly to you. Yeah, he will heal all these, and also the cooldown of all skills will be reduced by 1. So it's a nice bonus, but I don't know if anyone ever used Juggler other than AI Arena, AI Arena defense teams, because that's what I've been seeing a lot lately with Juggler. And finally, we got Elma. Elma's casting is probably by far the one that stands out the most out of all of it. So what I mean stand out the most is that this one is actually pretty good. HP plus 5%, Light Mirror's duration plus 1 turn, and has an additional effect. Restores HP equal to 1.5 times of caster's int at the end of action. So not only the Light Mirror you have that can reflect all debuffs, this also heals. This also heals by Elma's 1.5 times int, so that's actually pretty nice to have. So like, especially if you put it on your tank, that is. So if your tank is actually really needs some healing, as long as you're just standing, you will get yourself healed. So that's quite nice. As long as you have Light Mirror. And finally, before we close off this episode, there's something that I had to talk about. This is actually pretty huge to some of you who are a fan of Gaiva. So yeah, anyways, Guyver collab is coming up soon, like after this update. So after the update I just covered. So if you're a fan of Guyver collab or whatever, if you're a fan of that or a collector of that series, I highly recommend you to save for them because once they're gone, they're gone. So, anyways, that's about it. So, anyways, I wish I can explain more what Guyver does, or what Guyver series is, but I personally never watched Guyver, but I'm sure some of you are quite excited to see Guyver finally made an appearance here. Until then, hope you'll find this video informative, and I'll see y'all next time. Oh man, I'm exhausted. So anyways, see ya.